of the informal sector?
The informal sector is a sector where people hone their skills. If you look at it more positively, it's a sector where when people don't have employment, they seek refuge in that sector. It also supports the formal sector. It has a symbiotic relationship with the formal sector. In South Africa, the informal sector is not that big. In other parts of the world, the informal sector is actually the sector. So it is an important sector, economic sector in society.
What is the reason for the loss of jobs? We speak about the loss of jobs in the introduction to the interview, and what are the implications to this on the economy?
Well, I think the recent economic turmoil in the country, the strikes and so on, we remember the platinum strikes and so on, that affected the informal sector dramatically because the people that were trading there on the mines were the first to go to the wall, and then the more formal sector went to the wall. And the implications on this, on families, are very devastating, because in the informal sector there is very little by way of links to the banks, by way of links to funders or credit. So when they go to the wall, they actually go to the wall, and they have no other way to look at except probably other family members who are equally in the formal sector. The consequences are quite devastating when things hit hard on the informal sector.
Yeah.
So the turmoil, industrial action in South Africa, both on the motor manufacturing, the mining sector, and so on, have not been very kindly to the informal sector.
We talk about the formal sector, however, and this, of course, has added 690,000 jobs to the 10.75 million employees during the same period, while we're seeing the informal sector shedding jobs. What is owed to this vast disparity?
There is a chasm in our country regarding skills. So you may find that the formal sector, particularly the more industrial-driven one, technology-driven one, will require people with skills. And in the informal sector, there is an abundance of absence of skill. So this chasm does occur. At times, there is more work in the formal sector, therefore pulling people in the informal sector a little bit into the formal sector. There are a number of streams that are driving the process, but it is largely when the formal sector gets more jobs, you expect similarly the informal sector to get jobs as well.
Yeah. Having a look at some of the results showing that the youth and the other African groups like blacks, coloureds, Indian, Asians were found to be most active in the informal sector. Why does it appear that there are distinct racial and age-specific correlations as well?
Well, I mean, the entry into the labour market by the youth is increasingly getting difficult.
Yeah.
And particularly into the formal sector, especially for blacks, less so for whites, a little bit less so for Indians, as well as somewhat for colours. So the situation, besides the blacks being a preponderant population, 80% of the population contribution, but proportionately they get a disproportionate burden of being in the informal sector.
We've just done an interview on the, which of course quotes Statistics South Africa as well, looking at that poverty gap and the gap between the rich and the poor, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And when you look at the informal sector and the formal sectors, I mean, it all speaks to each other. Are there any feasible recommendations to curb this gap or aid the informal sector in any way?
It's very difficult to make policy recommendations in the event that these policy recommendations are made by the statistician. If they don't look like they are implemented, the statistician may tweak them to appear as though they are right. So ours is to present the numbers and say, here are the numbers.
Yeah.
So, but what the numbers tell is a storyline of deteriorating, or rather proportionately deteriorating prospects for employment amongst blacks, increasing and better prospects for employment amongst, proportionately amongst whites and Indians.
Yeah.
The question then is, what is it that we should do amongst blacks to have similar prospects that are observed amongst Indians and whites? I think because we are a microcosm of what happens in the world, solutions are visible in society, and that's what we have to look for. Yeah. Of course, it may cost, but I think we need to ask the question, what is it? And then, of course, when we go to household composition, family, and then the situation amongst the black children who grow with grannies who do not know anything about education, even though they may encourage their children, the content is not there to support the children. So this is a very complex situation.
It certainly is. Pali, thank you very much for talking to us here on the program. Sorry to cut you short, but we need to wrap the interview. We've got to go to our news bulletin in a short while. Pali Lehohla is the General Statistician from Stats South Africa in our
Statistician General.
Oh, yes. Statistician General. Maybe I should go. I think I need to go back to school. Thank you very much, Pali. Thanks. Have a great day. All right, we're running late for news.